Hello there, welcome to the Barbara Young channel. I've decided to have a go at a skirt pattern that I found that I think is really quite nice. It's the Simplicity pattern 8133. It's that one, that pattern. Now I'm going to have a go at C, which is actually the one the model is picturing in there, or the picture is of the model wearing, which is the one with the pocket on. But from what I can make out, B and C are the same, just one's got a pocket. So A is much longer and D is the shortest version, which is really quite a simple skirt, because it looks like it's a sort of basically a wraparound skirt, but with the tie part within the waistband. So that's what I'm going to have a go at, and see how that comes out, because it's meant to be quite a simple one. It is a learn to sew pattern, so it should be for beginner sewists. So, you know, if you've not done much sewing like me, then hopefully this should be fairly straightforward. Now the the material I'm going to use will probably make it a little bit more challenging, is this material that I got. Now I bought this material, see what's on there, it's well, I thought it was horses when I first saw it, but it is actually unicorns, but there you go. Very pretty sort of pattern. And I saw this in a shop when I was away down on the south coast by in a place called Bridport, and there was an amazing shop there, you know, material shop, and that's where I got this material from. I can't remember what it was called. I'll put a either a comment or a link or something to what that shop is. I just can't remember what it's called at the moment, but that's where I got this material from. Lovely material, I've got lots of lovely stuff there. So that's what I'm going to use to make this skirt. Now, first thing will be to do a mock-up, or not, as the case may be. What am I talking about? Well, I've already done the mock-up. Is actually this one I've got on now. Just to show you what I've got. See, the mock-up, as you can see, now this is just a bed sheet that I've used to make this. That's why it's in grey, and it's got, I don't know, it sits fine. I mean, quite happy with it, the way it's come together. So, to make this, you've got 3 panels. This one, two, so the left front, right front, left front, right front, and then a back piece that has 2 darts in it. You put the darts in the back here, so that's where the darts go in the back, and there is a bit of shaping to the panels with a straight edge there, and then you have a pocket. Now the tie part is actually stitched into the waistband here and here, so you can't lose this, so it's always in there. And I suppose as long as you get the right size that you cut out to make, then obviously you'll have enough room for tying up. Now my measurements, because I've got a bit of a tummy and a thick waist and narrow hips, then I made my measurements based on my hips, and I could have made the waist a little wider, but it seems to fit just fine the way it is. There's even, you know, quite a reasonable amount of overlay on the 2 front panels, so the wrap over is enough as far as I'm concerned. So that's what I'm going to do now. So my mock-up is fine, and it's actually basically a wearable mock-up really. So what I need to do now is to get on and make it out of this material, which I have pre-washed, and it's all ready to go. Just needs a bit more of an iron, and I can start marking up, cutting out and putting it together, and hopefully it'll come together fairly easily, I hope. So better get on with it. Right, now I've got my first 2 pattern pieces. Now because I've already done the mock-up for this skirt, I've already cut out my pattern pieces for this onto tracing paper. So I've still got my original pattern, and I've got it all worked out for the sizing that I want, which I think is medium, can't remember now. But anyway, my fabric is 115 wide, salvage to salvage. It's got a salvage here and a salvage here. Now, because of obviously there's a print on here, the first two parts I cut out is my left front and my right front. Now, this edge is basically a straight edge, and so with this side, and this one has a curvature to it. I don't know if you can see that at all. I don't know if it will come through. So I'm going to place this straight edge pretty much on the salvage, and the same on this side. Now, because I've only got this small surface for cutting on, which is about 1 metre by ½ metre, it's a really small area for cutting, so I can't really do a great deal on it. It's a bit restrictive, but that's what I've got to work with. But I can, once I put them on the either edge, I can put my pocket on here and cut that out as well, because I only need the one pocket. Could do two, I suppose, if you really wanted to. Put one on the back of the skirt if you fancied. But yeah, one pocket, and that can come out of that material there. Now, from measuring this, I need about 60 centimetres, sorry, not 60 mil. 60 mil is not very much at all. 60 centimetres, which is around just under 24 inches. So, but I'm saying 60 centimetres. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this material at 60 mil across there, and then I've got just this bit and not all of this other material getting in the way, so I can just work on getting these 3 pieces cut out to start with. So better get on with that and get them sorted first, because it's going to be slightly long-winded. It always is with me and cutting, because I don't have a lot of room for doing it, so I better shut up and get on with it, really. Right, well, I've now cut out my left front and my right front piece and the pocket. Done that, but now I've got the back piece. Now, the back piece on this pattern is cut on the fold. I'll try and get this piece, see if you can see it. It's cut on the fold along here, and there's a pleat at the top, and it does scoop out, so there is shaping to it on that on the side, which will be the seam for the left front and right front pieces. Now, on the pattern instructions, it tells me to, as you see, I've creased this, I've ironed it down, tried to get it as straight as I possibly can with the grain on this piece. That's my fold there, and on the instructions it tells me to put it on so it's, as it were, print side down, however it explains it. So in other words, that's the pattern piece goes face down, as I take it. But for me to do that with this material would mean that my print is going to be upside down, so I need to do it this way, which actually shouldn't make any difference because it's done on the fold, and that means that as I do it on the fold and cut out that, when I open it out, it'll be the right shape anyway, so it matters neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned with doing it exactly as the instructions say, because I'm still going to come out with a piece that's hopefully going to look right. So I just want to get it sort of leveled up, and hopefully I spent some time trying to get this angled right so it sits right, based partly on the print and the way this salvage edge is on there. So, well, I'm just going to have to cut it out, and hopefully I've got it square enough on the grain for it to sit nicely. So I'll have to get on with that. And then I've also got the pieces for the waistband cut out, of which one piece is cut twice, but that is also cut on the fold here, and then the other pieces are cut just on a single material. So, well, get on with it, I suppose, and hopefully before too long I have all the pieces and I can start sewing. Well, I've nearly got most of my pieces cut out now, but I've got some of the waistband and the tie pieces to do yet, and the pattern is slightly confusing. or pattern instructions, not because they wrote badly, but because I'm using material with the print on. Now, having looked at it carefully and had a bit of confusion when I was doing the mock-up, I've realised that these notches here are on the bottom of the piece. So any print that I have for these pieces, I've got one for the left front waistband and for the right front waistband, the notch piece has got to go to the bottom of any print. So they've got to sit one like that and two like that. Now my salvage is here. Now it tells me on the instructions that the tie band piece, these, has got to go along with the salvage, with the grain. But because of the print on this, that means I'm going to have these little unicorns in an odd direction, because when it's like that, they're going to be going, rather than, you know what I mean, I want the orientation to be the other way. But on the other hand, when I think about it, when this tie is hanging down, then I could get away with it being as it says with the grain by just making sure that this covers a row of the unicorns so they appear in the middle of the material. So you see a unicorn on the actual piece, but that's, well, I suppose it should do, I don't know. I'm going to have a little play about with this and see about where this is going to have to sit for me to get a good show of the actual pattern. Yes, a bit of thinking and a bit of careful planning. Well, I finally managed to get everything cut out. It's taken so much longer than I expected. I thought, you know, give it an hour, be done, maybe a little bit longer. No, it's just taking so much time. Partly because I don't have a lot of room, so I'm having to work around myself all the time. But I have finally got it all done. Got my marks in, darts for the back piece, waistband. In the end, the tie parts I've done with the unicorns going up and down, and hopefully, if I've done it right, when it's hanging, it'll hang with the, yeah, well, we'll see. I'll find out once I actually stitch it all together. But yeah, everything's there. Front and left front, whatever, back piece, waistband, interfacing, even the pocket. Lovely little pocket. There's a really slightly odd way of putting that on, but well, I'll get to that when I get to it. Yeah, everything's cut out, everything's ready to go. Just need to start sewing now. Halfway there, really, I suppose you could say. Not that I feel it's halfway. Feels like I've only just started, but on we go. Now that I've got everything cut out, I just need to decide, well, what thread I'm going to use, and then do a bit of testing to set my tension and that to make sure everything's going to sew up all right. Now, I've got three choices after looking in my box, and the first one, now see, this material has quite a green to it, so I actually started off with looking at this blue. Now, just if I can get a bit more light on there, this blue, well, it's okay. It's not brilliant. It sort of matches it, but it's not the best. And then I went and found a green. Now, it's definitely green, it's definitely the right colour, but it's not really the right sort of shade. It's a dark green, which will work. It will work with that. Just comes down to whether or not I want to have this darker green with this lighter green. And then I found this. roll of green, which is like a light olive green, which is really the closest that I've got to it, even though it's not really the right shade, which is odd because if you think about it, that this is nearer the right shade, just too dark. Sound a bit confusing, but it is. It's the better green to suit it. It's just too dark. Whereas this is a different shade of green, but it's lighter, so it seems to be a closer match. So I've got to decide whether I'm going to go with this or with this. And then yeah, I don't know. Not really sure yet. Anyway, I'm going to do some test stitching on this piece that I've got, check my tension and see how it looks really and see how it comes out. So better get on with that and make a decision. Well, I've now got all of my pieces sorted out. They're now cut out, they're now stay stitched, interfacing been put on, and everything marked up the way I want it to be. So it really is now completely ready to go and just start sewing, which is a little bit of an odd process because reading through the instructions from when I did the did my mock-up, there are a couple of things that are a little bit odd and I didn't quite get it, so I'm going to change things a little bit but not too much. There was the way the pocket goes on is a little bit odd, but it seems to work. You know, I'm happy with doing it that way. Then there's a seam that it says to tack, and then it'll be finished off later, but then it doesn't seem to get finished off until almost the last thing, which means it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit out of order. So I'm going to do that at a slightly different time to what it says. And then there's the waistband, and it's got a little bit of an odd process for doing the waistband. I can see and understand why they've done it this way, but it's not quite logical to my way of working, so I am going to change the process slightly. Not much, just a little bit, but hopefully because I've done the mock-up and I understand sort of how it goes together, it'll come together correctly still, I hope. Otherwise I'm going to make a right mess of this. I've not got much material left to be able to correct it if I do make a mess. There goes the instructions. Never mind. But anyway, it's definitely time to move on and get the sewing done, which will be tomorrow because it's late now and I'm tired and it's dark, and you know it's not good to be sewing when you're tired. So day 2, hopefully put it all together. Well, it's morning now. Well, late morning. Had a few things to do first of all, but now I can get back to actually constructing this skirt and putting it all together, starting with the pocket. It's a little bit of an odd process for the pocket, it says in the instructions, but having done it once on the mock-up, it's actually sort of sensible, even though it doesn't seem straightforward initially. But yeah, let's start there and get the pocket on the skirt. Now first of all, on the pocket, what you've got to do is turn over just a little edge. That'll be just a hemming edge, and then you turn this bit down on the line, the fold line it's given, so face down, you know, just a bit of steam to hold it in position. And then supposedly I've then got to stitch on the seam line, which is 1.5 centimeters, around this pocket just as it is. I'm not folding it over or anything else. I don't stitch this down here, not yet anyway, and I've just got to stitch round, and then I've got to put some easing stitches within the seam around what is this corner edge on both sides, because it's going to get eased in. It makes sense when I do it, but yeah, just got to get and stitch round that line now, which is the actual seam line. It will make sense once it's done. Well, I've stitched up the pocket now, and by the way, I've gone for the darker green that's the same hue, as it were, same, I don't know, it's the darker green. It seems to match quite well with this, so that's what I've gone with the thread. But anyway, I've stitched up round the edge and I've put these easing threads in, and effectively what you do then is, because you've got this lip, I'm going to turn this over, make sure I get the corners nice and sharp. I pressed it as well just to make it sit nicely, sit better, and then I'm going to press it again, but this time let's get this top bit done. Get my arms. And the trick being is that we use the easing thread on these corners to actually make the corner shape, because what I want is to then iron on the actual seam line where I've actually sewn. That's where I need to create the shape. And it seemed very odd to me the first time I did it, but once the pocket was on, it made sense. Because now, try and get iron that into position. And it's a bit fiddly, can take some time to get this just right, because you're trying to ease this corner, shape with the easing thread, so you get that nice turn in, which is easier said than done. But of course I'm also trying to turn it over on the actual line of the thread that I'd sewn. Well, I shall solder on and hopefully get it all nice and neat without it taking too long. And then with the corners, it's just a case of pressing it down and just pressing these tucks in. Until it's all nice and neat round the edge, and I've got the pocket shape then that I can then stitch onto the actual onto the garment. Well, having done all the stitching and turned through and got it sorted, I suppose pressed it down, then put it onto the right front piece, and there were a couple of dots that we'd marked on here. Now that's what the instructions say to follow to measure, to line it up. So just got to stitch that on, and that is the pocket on, which seems odd to do it that way, but it seems to be working out. And being the first thing to do, well, I don't know, instructions seem okay. Get this on and move on to the next step. Now my pocket is done. The next stage, it says, is to hem the edges for the left and right front, because that's the point where they're going to cross over, and I've got to hem them. But it just says hand based in, and they'll be finished off later on. Not so sure about that, but anyway, I'll get that done. Get the hems hand basted in, turned over and basted in, and on to the next stage, which I think is actually the darts. So after I've done that, I've then got to put the darts in. On there, and then I'll be ready to actually put these three panels together, the left front, right front and the back. So let's get these two hems done, the darts done, and then look at putting it all together, and then we're sort of some way on the way to actually having a skirt made. Well, I finally got the main part of the skirt done, the pockets on, the three sections, left, front, back and right front, no, left front, back, whichever. You can see I've got a skirt. Now I need to do the waistband, of which, according to the instructions, I found a little odd. So, instructions, on we go. With the waistband, that'll be fun. Now the waistband on this skirt seemed a little tricky when I did the mock-up, but actually it's not too bad. I've got 3 sections. That's going to be the left front, that's the right front, and this is the middle. But first of all, I have to put in one of the straps or the ties, the long ties, of which I've already done. I've done 2 ties, already got them together, and I just need to basically put this on there between the 2 red dots. Then I've just got to stitch these 3 pieces together. Fairly simple to make the whole waistband, and then I'll have a waistband. Now this has been cut out effectively twice, but this is the side that is going to be seen as it's on the skirt. So the pieces, these 3 pieces have got the interfacing on them, and then this is done again, but without interfacing, and that'll be put on for effectively like a facing, or you know, if it was like bias binding or something like that, then you'd have a whole piece that you'd fold over to form it. You know what I mean. And if you don't, it'll become apparent, I suppose, as I do this. So I'll get this on, get these 3 things together, and then it's yeah, supposedly onto the next section, which is where the instructions get a bit hazy for me, because the sequence isn't quite how I would expect it. So I'm going to do it in my sequence, and hopefully it'll come out right. Well, I'm getting on with the waistband. I've got the 2 sections together. I've got this tie strap in, that one's not, and got to a point where this is like, what on earth is going on? I do not like the instructions. The way that it says to do it just seems a bit of an arse of a way of doing it. And I've not finished these hems on this front edge for the left and right, and there's the bottom seam, and it says to do that sort of last. Well, I want this to be done because this has got to be stitched into the waistband. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this seam and the hem, and then I'm going to come back to the waistband and do it my way, because it just seemed a little illogical the way that they do it. So better crack on with it and see how far I can get before I've reached crying point. Well, I've got my waistband ready, and I've completely done it out of sequence from the instructions. What I've done is I've made the whole waistband up with the 2 ties in it. So this part is going to be the front that I'll see, and this piece here will fold in and will be the back, be the facing piece. And I've decided to do it this way because I just think it's probably going to be easier than the way I did on the mock-up. So now this bit I've got to match up and stitch onto the top of the skirt, and then once I've done that I can fold this over and basically complete the skirt without having to do the waistband in like 3 different steps. It's going to be 2 hopefully simple steps, so better get this on the skirt and see how well it goes. Well, I've almost got the waistband done. I've got it on, got it stitched on, I pressed it over on the top seam, and all I've got to do now is the inside seam. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because what I've got to do is I've got to fold this over just enough so that it overlaps the stitching for where I've sewn on the waistband from the other side, because I'm going to be doing a ditch stitch along here, so this has to be steamed, creased over just enough so that when I do that ditch stitch it will catch on this side. So a little bit of tricky pressing to make sure that this is in just the right place, and then I'll probably pin it in as well. Then hopefully I've just got to stitch that, and effectively it should be done then, because this is going to be the last stage. Now on the pattern, the last stage is to do the hemming, but I've already done that because I decided to do that before I put the waistband on, because it just seemed logical to get that bit done, and then all you've got to do then is the waistband. So I've just got to get this bit done to sew down the inner part of the waistband. So I better get on with it, because it looks like it might take me a little while to get this done. But my skirt is finally finished. Managed to get it all done, waistband on, and there's a little snap popper there to hold it together. So let's get it on and see how it fits. So and there you have it. One skirt, or two, because I've got the mock-up that's wearable, and the finished product with the unicorns on. Come out very nice actually. So there we go, my attempt at making the Simplicity 8133 skirt. Yeah, it was actually quite enjoyable. Fairly simple, I suppose. For me it was a little bit taxing in parts, especially the waistband. You know, did my first one on the mock-up, which worked out quite well, but having done that one, the instructions were a little bit odd, so I decided to change the sequence a little bit and do them a little bit differently my way, and end up with my skirt, my finished product, which is got the little unicorns on it. I first thought it was horses, but they're not. It's unicorns, and it is. You know, it's like a wrap skirt, and it was very nice to make. And this is a lovely skirt. I like some of the little design features in this skirt, and it fits really nicely. So I think I'm going to quite enjoy this skirt. So it's a nice little make, and for a beginner I think it really does help to draw on developing those skills, because I feel like I've learned something from making this skirt. So yeah, it's been very enjoyable. Well, thank you for joining me on this video. I look forward to joining you on my next video. Yeah.